It's a Tuesday, Locked On Lions. Brett Whitefield's going to join us. Let's break down some Senior Bowl. And man, isn't it nice that the Lions don't have a wacko like the Packers do?
You are Locked On Lions, your daily Detroit Lions podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's good, everybody? Matt Dery with you. It is Locked On Lions on the Locked On Podcast Network. We played it, yes, on a Tuesday, February 7th and a Wednesday, February 8th. Thanks for making us your first listen and checking us out wherever you get your podcasts, including on our Locked On Lions YouTube channel. Coming up on the show today from fantasypoints.com, our buddy Brett Whitefield, analytics, breakdown of the draft, breakdown of the Senior Bowl, the director of data and research for Fantasy Points, Mr. Brett Whitefield is going to join us coming up momentarily. Also, a little bit of an update on Aaron Glenn. And Aaron Rodgers is just so strange. My goodness gracious. Could you imagine our buddy Peter Bukowski hosting Locked On Packers and having to report on this guy every day? Man, oh man. This episode of Locked On Lions brought to you by Nissan. The only thing more exciting than the big game is the all-new, all-electric 2023 Nissan Ariya. There's only 5 days left until the Super Bowl. Are you ready? The Nissan Ariya, the EV for people who love to drive. Learn more at nissanusa.com. You can follow us on Twitter at Dery Speaks, D-E-R-Y Speaks, at Locked On Lions on Twitter, the Matt Dery Facebook fan page, and always, you can find us on the YouTube side and the video side on the Locked On Lions YouTube channel. As I mentioned, Brett Whitefield's going to join us momentarily. Mr. Irsay, Jim Irsay, has just tweeted, Colts owner saying it's not hours, but days until they'll make their announcement in Indianapolis on just whom the next head coach of the Colts is. Aaron Glenn is a candidate. He is still under consideration. There's like 10 candidates for the job. So we're going to know in the next couple days, according to Mr. Irsay, Colts owner, Jim Irsay, if Aaron Glenn is going to Indy or if he's staying with the Lions as defensive coordinator. That is number one. Number two, I got to tell you about Aaron Rodgers. So today he was on the Pat McAfee show again, which he's on weekly every Tuesday. And Aaron Rodgers was asked by McAfee if he's going to retire, if he's going to go into the Hall of Fame with Tom Brady and J.J. Watt, if he's going to the Raiders, all these things. One thing Aaron did say was that he hasn't decided whether or not he's going to play yet this season. But, quote, that's why I think it's going to be important to get through this week and take my isolation retreat and contemplate all things my future, end quote. Rodgers called it a darkness retreat for 4 nights alone. He's going to sit in the pitch black all day and night for 4 days and 4 nights. Quote, it's really sensory deprivation isolation, end quote. Rodgers added it stimulates DMT and there can be some hallucinations. So in other words, Aaron Rodgers is going to sit in the dark and get high for 4 days. 4 days in pitch black. How do you go to the bathroom? How do you eat? This guy is just so weird. There's got to be teammates that go, man, I'm tired of playing with this weirdo. Thank goodness we don't have that with the Lions are so stress-free right now. It's fantastic. Although Darius Slade talking about Matt Patricia again just makes me laugh. All right, coming up next, Brett Whitefield, our main man from fantasypoints.com. He was down at the Senior Bowl in Mobile. He's got his breakdowns. You can read him at fantasypoints.com. We're going to have him on the show coming up next. What about PrizePicks, though? Daily fantasy is made easy and so much fun. It's you against the projections. Tonight, Red Wings Oilers down at the LCA. Woo-wee. You want to have some interest in the game? Play a little PrizePicks. You pick 2 to 6 players, and if they score more or less than their PrizePicks projection, you can win up to 25 times your money on any entry. Maybe you want to pick Mo Sider. I don't know. No competing against other people. It's just you against the projections available. Do it for the Super Bowl NBA, NHL, college basketball, whatever you want to do at PrizePicks.com. Download the PrizePicks app or go to the website, PrizePicks.com, to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. It's easy. You got entries that can be made in 60 seconds or less, and it's fun. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON. If you deposit $100, PrizePicks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, PrizePicks will give you $50. If you put in $1, they'll give you $1. Don't forget to enter promo code LOCKEDON at sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100. It's our friends at PrizePicks. It is always great to catch up with this guy. As promised, Brett Whitefield is our guest today, Director of Data and Research at FantasyPoints.com. Has always been into the analytics and the scouting side of things. We love having Brett on the show as he's just back from Mobile and the Senior Bowl. Sir, what's going on?
Matt, this is my favorite time of year because I get to talk to you more than usual days.
It is good to catch up with you. You've got 17 kids now. You're a busy man, but congrats on everything. And how was the Senior Bowl? What takeaways as you walked away and as you flew back home? What were you thinking as you spent the week in Mobile?
Well, my main takeaway, Matt, is that your buddy Jim Nagy just puts on an incredible week every year since he's taken the thing over. It's the amount of talent he's able to bring in. It's just incredible. I mean, over 100 of the top seniors in the country, and it's an amazing show all week long.
So that's cool. I mean, that's always good, right? Right. But tell me about let's start maybe offensively. Were there some guys that stood out for you? And obviously, we'll get to the Lions fit in a second. I want to talk to you about Detroit's season, but what takeaways maybe on the offensive side of the ball, and maybe what players stood out for you?
Yeah, so I think on paper, like, this was an underwhelming wide receiver group coming in. Like, of all the positions at Senior Bowl, I was looking at this group like, there's a lot left to be desired there. I think the general consensus was a lot of the best receivers in this class were juniors, which is typically true most years, but I think it was extra heavy this year. And I kind of had my mind changed as I watched these guys over the course of the week. A dude by the name of Michael Wilson from Stanford, he showed up as a dude. The first thing I noticed when I got to practice on Tuesday was that this guy was out 30 minutes, 45 minutes before practice, just ripping off incredible footwork drills, really working on his craft. And it showed up all week long. He was dusting corners left and right. And this is a prototype X receiver. He's big, huge frame, solid, rocked up muscle guy, but he has a really refined game, and it wasn't necessarily seen in his tape because he dealt with a lot of injuries. I felt like that was a guy who was a clear riser all week because of what he was putting out there at practice.
Jaden Reed was good. We don't have to go too crazy with the receivers, but here's a kid from Michigan State, was really, really good, and the ball finally got to him. I know 2 years ago he had that great season, but Peyton Thorne and him just did not connect this past year. But he where do you see Reed going?
So Reed was another one. I don't know if you checked out my write-up on fantasypoints.com, but I did a 4,000 word breakdown of all my thoughts. And Reed was another guy I touted in there as a massive riser because what he did at practice was incredible. I mean, he's basically been cast as this deep threat only guy at Michigan State for the last few years, and it wasn't working great. I mean, you can see the explosiveness downfield, but like you said, him and Thorne didn't really have that rapport. He gets a Senior Bowl week with a lot of questions about what his skill set in totality is. One of those things is, can he play in the slot? He's a smaller guy. He's 5'10", 5'11", 190 pounds. He's going to need to at least play in the slot sometimes, which he didn't really do at Michigan State a whole lot. And Senior Bowl coaches basically said, hey, we're making you a slot-only receiver this week, and we're going to see what you got. And he answered the call, man. He was fantastic all week long, generating quick separation. I was really impressed with his technical prowess on those short and intermediate routes that he didn't really get to do a lot of at Michigan State.
So what would you say
for Reed this year is like a couple standout receivers, but none of them are really that true lock number one guy like there's been the last 4 or 5 years, it seems like. So you have this giant pool in the middle of guys who it's going to be really hard to sort through this when you're starting to build your draft boards out. I personally think Reed's worth a day 2 pick. Whether the NFL feels that way or not, I don't know. I think mixed with his special teams ability, though, he definitely should be a day 2 pick. At worst, like an Amon-Ra situation where he falls to the 4th round.
Interesting. What about
as far as
yeah, go ahead.
Bell didn't really do anything to impress. Not that he was bad, but there were so many of these other guys that took that step forward or put something out there that we hadn't seen on tape that I kind of elevated them. Bell just kind of got lost in the shuffle. I didn't really see anything that impressed me. I think he's a day 3 guy for sure.
Interesting. Brett Whitefield with us, Director of Data and Research, fantasypoints.com. Always has been on top of things. I always say I knew Brett before Pro Football Focus was around, and does a fantastic job. All right, so you mentioned the receivers a little bit. Offensive line, we talk about the Lions. There looks to be possible opening at right guard. What'd you see down there in terms of some of those guys?
Yeah, there's a couple absolute standout studs down in Mobile. The first one I'd like to note is he is a guard, and that's Osiris Torrance from Florida.
Yeah.
He was kind of billed going into the week as probably the best guard available in the draft. So I'm not really sure if his agent felt that way or if maybe he's getting different info. Typically, though, when you have that, you don't go practice all the reps and do all the things at Senior Bowl week because you're there to improve your draft stock, right? So the fact that he was there shows me that maybe that's not a consensus thing. Regardless of that, though, he stood out. He was an absolute monster in the run game, monster in the pass pro drills. One of the best parts of Senior Bowl week is getting down on the field and watching those 1v1s. That's as soon as the O-line and the D-line start facing off against each other, every scout in the building just heads that direction. And it's basically like watching live combat, like gladiator style combat. And he was awesome there. The other guy was Minnesota center John Michael Schmidt. Both these guys could plug in at right guard for the Lions, but what Schmidt brings to the table is that backup center role. In case Ragnar goes down, it seems like they're probably going to lose Evan Brown in free agency. We can't say that for sure. That's the kind of the feeling I have right now. I don't know about you, but if they did lose Evan Brown, they're going to need to address that backup center spot, and Schmidt would be a great way to kill 2 birds with 1 stone.
All right, so with Torrance, do you think the Lions could take him at 18? Will he be there? I don't think they're going to take him at 6, but do you think he's worthy of one of those 2 first-round picks?
Yeah, I'm going to probably end up with a late first-round grade at him. So 18, it feels a little early, but I mean, if they've identified him as the guy, we're at the point now with this regime. I don't want to give them, blind faith. But as far as building this culture, it's clear what they're doing. So, like, if they said, "Hey, this is a culture fit. This is the guy," we're going to take him at 18. I would be more than fine with that. Even though my grade on him is going to be a little bit later in the round.
Brett Whitefield with us. It's interesting because obviously when you look at on offense, the Lions, I don't think you're going to draft a quarterback or even somebody developmentally. Maybe you differ than I do. Certainly running backs, everybody says, oh, yeah, they get to get another running back. But really they do need a right guard if Vaitai doesn't come back, if Evan Brown doesn't come back, and maybe another tight end. As you look at the Lions tight end room, did anybody stand out for you down in Mobile that you say, hey, I'd take that guy for the Lions?
Oh, yes. So there's a lot. So, I mean, one of the awesome things Nagy's done is the last 2 years, it seems like he's just bringing in just stellar tight end groups. And this tight end draft class in general, Matt, is loaded. I'm sure you've paid attention, but you have the 3 guys that weren't at Senior Bowl and Kincaid and Maher and Washington from Georgia. Those guys are all potentially first-round picks. They probably all won't go in the first round, but they're that level of good. And then at the Senior Bowl, I would say all 7 tight ends they brought in. They did bring in an 8th guy late as well, but I didn't get to watch him at all. The 7 guys that were originally there, they're all studs in their own right. And, not necessarily first-round picks, but guys that are going to be good performers for teams for a lot of years. The one guy I'd want to note is Oregon State tight end Luke Musgrave. This guy is an absolute freak of nature, Matt. Zebra Technologies is down there doing the GPS tracking data. He's 6'5", 260-ish pounds, and he was running over 20 miles an hour. He would have been the 4th fastest receiver there. He was faster than every safety there. And when you watch him, I hate comping like prospects to Hall of Fame level players, but I couldn't help but feeling like I was watching a baby Gronk out there, or like a young Gronk. I mean, wow. He has that frame, and just the way he separates away from defenders with ease it's a sight to behold.
Brett Whitefield with us. I want to talk some defense with him and what he saw down in Mobile. We'll do that coming up next, and also a little bit about this Lions season. Get his thoughts on the 9-8 winning season Detroit Lions. First, though, our friends at Built Bar are with us again today, looking for a delicious treat, but don't want all the fat and calories, and you got to try a Built Bar. We just got through the holidays. I know my goal is to get a little healthier this year, of course, and everybody really wants to. We got to try Built Bars. They actually taste great. They're delicious, but they're good for you as well. What makes them go so good? For starters, they're all covered in 100% real chocolate. That's right, real chocolate. You get the churro flavor, peanut butter brownie, coconut almond, of course, my favorite, cookies and cream. I just was at Sam's Club the other day and got the mixed box with the cookies and cream and salted caramel. You can do the same. Head to Walmart or Sam's Club. They are there right now. If you go to your nearest Walmart today, walk to the pharmacy section and grab yourself a box of Built Bars. You can pick up a four-bar box of cookies and cream, double chocolate, or even the coconut puffs. And if you're close to Sam's Club, like I said, run in and grab that 13-bar box with their hit flavors, brownie batter and churro. You can thank me later, or just go to built.com. Brett Whitefield with us from fantasypoints.com. Check out all of his work and the write-ups from the Senior Bowl. Before we get to the Lion season, Brett, what about on defense? Who stood out for you? What did you like the most? Give me some names.
Yeah, probably like 3 or 4 guys I'd really want to note. Couple guys being corners, and it's no secret the Lions need cornerback help. One of the places I think they could find that is in Riley Moss, the corner from Iowa. He'd be the only white cornerback in the NFL, so there's been a lot of people automatically suggesting he moves to safety, which is funny. But when he showed up at Mobile, I mean, he was stride for stride with all the speedsters. Zebra technology they had him as one of the faster corners there. He hit over 20 miles an hour, I believe, which should translate to a good 40 time and answer all those questions about his speed. But he looks the part. He's not quite as physical at the line of scrimmage as maybe Aaron Glenn's looking for in a corner, if Aaron Glenn's still here, that is. But man, I really liked what I saw. The other corner there, Matt, that really surprised me was Darius Rush from Georgia. His tape was just okay. Like it's really hit or miss. He's got some really high quality reps. Then they'll have lulls, and then there's a game or two where he gets beat up a little bit. But man, he was really good this week. He just looks like a freak athlete, prototype size, length, all that stuff. Checks all those boxes. So he's the kind of guy where maybe you get him a little bit later than some of the higher touted guys, and with some coaching, he could turn into a really nice player for you. But man, he looked the part this week. I was really impressed.
Away from the Senior Bowl for a second, but Witherspoon, would you take him at 6?
Oh yeah, I would. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's going to have a top 10 grade for me for sure, possibly top 5. And not only that, Matt, he fits exactly what Aaron Glenn wants on a cornerback. And exactly what they need. They need a corner with ball skills. I like pairing him with Kirby Joseph. They do have some rapport from playing together in college. Yeah, I mean, ball skills for days. He's so physical at the line of scrimmage. When Glenn likes to dial up those blitzes and stuff, he's really going to help those blitz packages get home.
We know Brad Holmes loves to collect defensive linemen. What did you see down there, and were there any kind of Lion-esque looking players along that front?
Yeah, the one guy I want to note, and he's probably the biggest, riser out of the week on the defensive side, was Keon White out of Georgia Tech. I know Daniel Jeremiah came out with his top 50 and had him in the top 10 there. It might be a little rich for me, though, Matt. I mean, he looks the part. He's 280 pounds, completely rocked up. When you talk to the guy, he's a very impressive individual. Every time I saw him, Matt, he was sitting on the ground reading a book. Like this is this is a dude. It seems like he'd be a great culture fit here, and just an absolute freak athlete. His tape was really hit or miss this year, though. Like I said, he's you can see all the physical traits there. So if you're scouting purely on traits, this is a guy you would love. If you like, I have the analytical background, so I'm looking for that consistency, that rep for rep, that pass rush win rate. I want all those stuff to be in line, and he was a little bit lacking there, but you can't argue that the tools are there. And he's one of these guys, like the way he's built. I think he's 285 pounds. Like he's the perfect Swiss Army knife that they've already collected a few of these guys now with Kaminsky and Josh Paschal and Aiden Hutchinson. All these guys can kind of play inside out. He'd be another one, man. I'd love to just see them stick him at 3 tech next to Aleem McNeil. The problem is you're probably gonna have to spend the 6th overall pick on him, and I'm just not sure I'm willing to do that.
Brett, we've talked for years on this show, just in this podcast, about this team, and they finally get over the hump a little bit. And obviously, the fan base is juiced, and this team wins 9 games. What do you think, man? Were you stunned to take a step back in mid-January and go, wow, 9-8, and now everybody's going to be picking them to win the division next year?
Oh man, yeah, that's the trouble, right? The expectations are now going to be so astronomically high. It's almost like there's no room margin for error at this point. It's crazy. But the season was impressive. Anytime you start 1-6 and finish with a winning record, like all the praise in the world needs to go to that coaching staff, Dan for keeping the ship afloat. When you watch those early games, though, Matt, like you could see it coming. Like you could see they were close in just about every game. I know people lost a little faith after that Patriots game where it just looked ugly. They got beat up pretty bad against just a mediocre team. But man, like it wasn't really a surprise to me that they turned it around. I think the tough part as an observer is like when they are 1-6 and you hear Campbell saying every week, we're so close, we're so close. It's like, yeah, man, we've been so close for a while now. Like when is this thing actually going to click? And then boom, out of nowhere, it hits you in the face.
What do you think the biggest why? I mean, obviously everybody's talked about Dan Campbell and there's going to be consistency with the coaching staff and Ben Johnson's coming back, but what gives you the most optimism when you look at the roster? What do you really like about it? And maybe what do you think they need to address?
Yeah, I mean they got really good quarterback play in the second half of the year out of Goff, and he had moments in the first half as well. I think that stretch he had where he lost some of those weapons. Chark wasn't really at full capacity. Plus, he missed some games. Obviously, that stint on IR. Then Reynolds missed some games. Amon-Ra was hurt. Swift was hurt. Like that rough stretch Goff went through was really a result of that. As soon as he got all those guys back, it was like, well, they can protect this guy, and he has weapons. You can kind of see what Goff has. So his game really turned around and got a lot more consistent. The accuracy you saw early in his career kind of came back. That was a big driver of their success, though. That offense was very hard to stop, especially because they could hit you from so many different angles. That with their offensive line, I have faith going forward just because their offense should be really good. I mean, if they get any improvement from the defense, they're going to be a contender just about every game. And you asked where they need to improve, Matt. I mean, that's the obvious spot is defensively.
So are you thinking, man, they've got to get a corner or two, or are you into, all right, Hutchinson, whoever on the other side is the Kaminsky, they'll probably make a decision on Okwara or Harris. They got some young guys and obviously James Houston, but maybe that second D tackle.
Yeah, the two areas in free agency, and I know you didn't really want to touch that, but like D tackle and linebacker loaded in free agency this year. I'm hoping that maybe they can get a starter there, and a plus starter at that, not even just an average guy, someone who is actually a plus contributor, maybe a Javon Hargrave setting the sights a little too high, but a guy in that mold would be good. Someone who can really rush the passer from three technique. That's the only thing the D line's missing right now is that interior pass rush. Aleem is good for 330 pounds, but you need that quick penetration, and Aleem's just not really going to be that guy for you. So if they could address either linebacker or defensive tackle in free agency, I don't think they're going to go break the bank for Jamel Dean. That doesn't seem like something this group would do. But if they did, I wouldn't even be mad at it, depending on the cost, because it is such a big need. I know we've seen rumors float about Ramsey and Lattimore being traded here, but point being, Matt, if they need to get one of these guys in free agency or trade, and then that leaves the draft open for the rest. And I would load up there. I would draft multiple corners. I'm a huge cornerback guy. My analytics background suggests, corner is probably the most important spot on defense. So yeah, draft multiple corners. Draft one at 6. Draft another one in the 3rd round, or a safety, or a hybrid slot safety type like Sidney Brown from Illinois. That's a guy I love. Like, go get one of those guys, and make sure the secondary has no excuses moving forward.
And I'm back. I'm with you on this. A trade for Marshawn Lattimore or Jalen Ramsey just isn't it doesn't seem like a Brad Holmes thing. Maybe he'll surprise me. He hasn't done that the first 2 years. I know it was different the first 2 years. Now they're going for it a little bit, but I just don't see that. From Brad at least. What do you think?
Well, I don't. There's no need to accelerate your timeline. Like they've been doing the low and slow build. It's like they have the whole team in a smoker and they're just waiting for that brisket to be perfect. So there's no reason to start raising the temperature on that. I really think their build is strong. Like they're really good in the trenches. They're just a few pieces away from really being competitive. And then you have to cross the golf bridge at some point. But add those pieces on defense. It all depends on cost too for me, Matt. Like if Ramsey's going to cost you a 2nd round pick, yeah, sure, I'll do that all day long. if you're telling me I got to go up 6 and I could probably just get Witherspoon, who's 21 years old, and have him for the next 8 years, I'd probably rather do that. Ramsey's almost 30. So, yeah.
Have to wait and see. All right, Brett. Great to catch up, my friend. Congrats on everything you're doing, and keep up the great work.
Thanks, Matt.
Brett Whitefield with us on Twitter at BG Whitefield, as you can see on the screen for those of you watching on the YouTube channel, Director of Data and Research at fantasypoints.com. Always love Brett's insight, and we'll get him back on before the draft as well. This has been a Tuesday edition. We're back again tomorrow right here on Locked On Lions.